know that farming is hard work. And I've done my best to instill those values in my children.
Welcome to the Farm Story Project. I'm Scott, and we started this podcast because we believe that farms are more than fields. They're legacies, lessons, and stories worth preserving. Here you're going to find conversations with farmers from all across the country. Some teach us practical wisdom. Some remind us of what matters most. All of them connect us back to the soil and the soul of farming. Today I'm excited to introduce to you John, who is from the Ohio Valley Lavender Company. John is known for growing lavender with he and his family, and more than that, having other equipment for sustainable and regenerative agriculture. He is a huge importer of commercial and residential equipment. But beyond the work of farming, his story is one of values, family, and resilience. That's exactly what we will be exploring together. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So, John, welcome. Thank you very much for being here.
All right, thanks for having me.
Go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your farm, how you guys got started.
Well, I've always loved living in the country, and when I got out of the Navy, my wife and I moved back to Ohio and bought a small farm, and then we were mowing a lot of grass, and so we decided to try and do something with it. So we went to an OSU agriculture extension program for hemp growers in Ohio. It was a new program that they were starting, and we decided to start looking into growing hemp. And it was really frustrating because I spoke to the guy who was doing the program, and he basically gave us some pretty big false hopes, some things that were too good to be true. For example, I talked to the guy, he was one of the buyers, he ran a company named Acela, and the Acela program, and this guy said, well, if you grow 2 acres of hemp, you'll clear $60,000. And I said, that's too good to be true. And I told my wife, that's just, that if that's the case, every farmer in the world is going to grow hemp, and the market's going to crash, and so on. Well, that's exactly what happened. Here in Ohio and northern Kentucky, a bunch of people grew hemp. They had it all processed, all ready to go, and then the bottom fell out of the market, and they were stuck with all of their crops, couldn't sell any of it, and lost tens of thousands of dollars. So we're really glad we didn't do the hemp portion of it. So after that, we got to doing a little bit of research, and we liked lavender, and so we started growing lavender, and we have about 3 or 4 acres of lavender now.
Wow!
And it's been okay. It's been fun. It's a lot of hard work, but we've actually expanded it and taken away a lot of the work with the lavender, and now we've started an importing business where we import machinery from Europe, and that was based upon our search for lavender equipment. It really wasn't made here in the United States. And so
absolutely.
We started doing some research and bought a machine, and then once we bought the machine and brought it over, we really liked it. So we contracted with that company to be their exclusive seller here in the United States, and then we went back over to Italy, found 3 or 4 more manufacturers, and right now we're in the process of starting to import from 5 different companies in Europe. And so we went to, when we were over there, we were looking for machines that weren't currently available in the United States that we thought would fit well inside the United States agricultural market. And so that's kind of a hole, and we're doing our best to fill it.
Honestly, you think about, finding a niche. That's really what it comes down to, is finding that niche and then marketing to that niche. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Thinking about the machinery, so what does the machinery do? Is it mostly for harvesting, for planting? What's it used for?
I legit sell everything but the plants. So I will sell you cultivating equipment, bed laying equipment, you name it. Is what we sell. And we also sell
that's awesome, man.
Machinery from a company called Benino, which they make really large lavender harvesters. We have about 5 of those in the United States right now. Soon to be a lot more. But their main program, the main thing that they do is manufacture zero graze machines to cut fresh grass for cattle, especially dairy cattle. And it's an all-in-one collection. It cuts it, collects it, and distributes it to the cattle, all one guy from the seat of his tractor with a control panel. They're pretty unbelievable machines. And
absolutely.
And we've got machines by Caffini, which is technically a sprayer company in Italy, but they make a weeding machine called the grass killer. And the grass killer uses high pressure water at about 14,000 psi, and it pumps it through a rotating head, and it chews up the weeds instead of using chemicals. And
wow,
we've got too many chemicals in our water. And so when you drive down the highway and you see ODOT with their spray trucks out just spraying Roundup and whatever they can find to kill the weeds. Well, it rains, those chemicals go straight into the sewer, straight into the creek, straight into the river. And I'm not this huge environmentalist guy, but I want clean water. And so we've got to get that. So we started with them, and then these on harvesters are just lavender harvesters. They come out of Bulgaria. And then we have a line of everything equipment in a company called Spapari. And Spapari in Italy, they started out as a tobacco company where they are making tobacco equipment, and they've expanded into just about everything. And it is good, high-quality equipment. They make an awesome lavender harvester, which is where we started bringing those in. And this fall, we've got a big push with funding, so we finally got a backer, and we're going to bring in some machines for demo models, and we're bringing in one of their large conveyor belts for vegetables, and then they also have a weeding machine that's pretty slick. So
it's all good.
One of the things that we realized very quickly, and this is going to be something that you have obviously heard over time, is the cost of labor. And the cost of labor is getting painful in the United States if you can find somebody to work for you.
Right.
I have a customer in California, and he bought a lavender harvester from me last year. And I said, why'd you decide to buy a lavender harvester? And he said, because I had 1.5 acres of this lavender. They came in and cut it and bundled it, and it cost me $18,000 in labor.
Wow.
It's brutal. And because in California, and I won't get all of this right, but I'll get it close. The agricultural farmers have a minimum wage, and it's like $18 or $20 an hour. And then if you do it legally and you go through an H-2B visa program, you have to go through a staffing company, and then the staffing company charges you a premium and all of their stuff. So we ended up paying his workers $38 an hour each.
Whoa.
And he said, I am never doing this again. And so he called me and bought a harvester because he can pay for it in 2 years.
That's awesome.
That has been a main focus, is to bring in unique machines that reduces the need for labor to get farmers some break. And kind of our selling point is, if you can buy a machine and pay it back in 4 years or 5 years in labor costs, it's absolutely worth it.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you're saving on the, not only just the labor cost of paying them an hourly wage, but also the insurance and the insurance on your insurance on your farm, insurance on your equipment, ongoing issues that way. And it's nice to be able to go through and have people who are willing to come out and work, but at the same point, that costs something at the end of the day.
The first year we hired, my daughters are in college, we hired some of their friends to come over and cut lavender, and that was great, but they're all at college now, and they're not interested in coming out and cutting lavender. And so we had to buy a machine, and I normally buy 1 or 2 a year and then make them as demos and then sell them as demo models so I can harvest my stuff.
Absolutely, man. How many, so you mentioned having 3 to 4 acres. How many plants do you guys have there?
I think we put in about 4,500 lavender plants.
Okay.
3 different varieties.
Okay. Mostly like a hybrid or culinary or a mix?
No, we did have one culinary, which I can't stand the taste of lavender. A lot of people like it, or they kind of like that.
Yeah.
It tastes like perfume to me, and so I don't enjoy it. So we did have one breed, and we just distilled that and mixed it all together. Grosso is another one that we had.
Yep.
It's a heavy oil producer, and then we started planting Phenomenal, and it's doing really well.
Good. Yeah, we started out with Munstead, and then also we have Phenomenal, and yeah, the Phenomenal has done quite phenomenally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really all about what do you want to use it for at the end of the day, and what are you trying to gain from it, and yeah. So I honestly, we are a very small farm as far as that goes. We put in. At one point, we had 650 plants, but because of the wonderful Ohio growing seasons, we are probably around 300 right now. So way less, way more manageable. Still, challenging at times, but we also have really young kids. Our oldest is 11 at this point. They're able to go out there and harvest a little bit and do some stuff. And yeah, I cannot imagine wrapping my head around 4,500 plants.
Where are you in Ohio?
Yeah, so we are just we're up in Crawford County. It's about an hour and a half north of Columbus.
Okay.
So some heavy clay soil. We are known as the bratwurst capital of the world. That's kind of a cheap claim to fame, if you will.
Bratwurst capital of the world. All right.
Exactly. Yeah. Self-claimed as far as I know. All right, man, let's get into some other questions here. So it's really awesome about, you were talking about, the water weeder, not using any chemicals, not using glyphosate. I think, honestly, people don't realize the impact that the chemicals have when they go into their water supply. Tell me a little bit more about why you guys wanted to avoid chemicals overall versus using the water weeding processes.
Well, there's a big problem with the chemicals, obviously, with the environmental impact. And I don't think that people realize that. They don't understand how that's going into the water system and polluting it. If people want to more understand what I'm talking about, if you look at the Mississippi Delta down into the Gulf of Mexico and the fertilizer runoff and the algae blooms and what it's doing to the ocean down there, it's a much better visualization of what I'm talking about. That's not pharmaceuticals are in our water that are bad. I think that we just need to quit mucking that up and to protect the environment as much as possible. Like I said, I'm not this big environmentalist or whatever, but I want clean air and clean water, and I can do my small part, hopefully.
Exactly, and I think honestly that just sends a huge message that you don't have to be this huge green environmentalist to appreciate having clean water and clean air and clean soil and clean food. And yeah, it's a full cycle, it's a full circle that we all get to pay for at some point.
Yeah, and
so tell me a little bit more.
Was my grandfather a couple of years ago died, and he was in hospice, and he was in home hospice, and we had all this morphine and Ativan and painkillers. And the first thing the hospice nurse did was break the bottles open and dump them in the toilet and flush them down. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, well, this is what we have to do. I was like, no. And I mean, it was a lot of medicine, and dumping opiates in our water supply is just not good for anybody.
Exactly. Yeah, it's eye-opening when you step back and you begin to realize how significant that is.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about thinking about faith, thinking about farming, thinking about just values in general. How do your faith, your values, how does that influence your work there on the farm?
Well, as far as faith, I don't know if it has much of an impact on that, other than I like to go out and see this big, beautiful creation and look around and just be in awe of the beauty of where we live and farms and
Yeah.
As far as values, I've always valued hard work, and we know that farming is hard work. And I've done my best to instill those values in my children. One of them took pretty well. One of them's kind of, she's not a hard physical laborer, but the other one is. And I'll tell you who's the hardest worker on my farm is my wife. My wife is an absolute beast of a human being. I'll go out and find her splitting firewood to keep us warm in the winter, or pulling weeds, or cutting the grass, or whatever. She owns her own business, and then comes home and splits firewood. And it's just kind of
wow.
Yeah, you don't get that very often. So I definitely married up.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. So beyond splitting firewood and beyond thinking about your girls, are there any other specific family or personal stories that you'd like to be able to share here, whether it's farm related or even just personal related?
Not really. We had talked about my broken leg and your busted shoulder. And
Yeah, unfortunately, we do dumb things. We win dumb prizes.
yeah. My farm is in pretty bad shape right now. It's covered in weeds just because I can't get out and get to it. And
Yeah.
that's going to be pretty trying next year to try to get this farm back in order. But I just can't stand up and go out and work on that uneven ground very well. Which
Absolutely.
is your shoulder.
Well, 4 years ago, I moved a freezer by myself down a flight of stairs. And yeah, unfortunately, the freezer won. The freezer is still intact and it still did well. But I've tried doing my own therapy along the way. And unfortunately, it got to the point to where I could no longer pick up my kids without having severe pain in my shoulders. And realized I should probably do something about this. And
Yeah.
it ended up leading me to ultimately have shoulder surgery. So I got the left shoulder done. It's the rotator cuff. Got the left rotator cuff done in just last month, so 3 weeks ago, and then get to do the right side in November.
Nice.
Yeah. So unfortunately, but
yeah, I'm a retired firefighter, and I did 28 years in the fire department and retired in 2023. And I just happened to break my right leg three times, which is part of the reason I had to retire. I just couldn't. It was the pain. I was going to hurt somebody. I wasn't 100%. I just couldn't stand it. So I ended up going ahead and retiring. This last leg that I broke is my left leg. And so now I have two terrible legs instead of just one. So,
oh, man,
I'm not sure how this is going to work out. I'm still in quite a bit of pain. I'm on a cane with this left leg. And hopefully I'll get back to work here soon. We'll see.
Yeah, that's difficult, man. I can't imagine what it's like to have to go through and rely upon the cane and rely upon two maimed legs, if you will. And,
yeah.
Man, well, I guess that would certainly lead into the next couple of questions, because that's certainly a challenge. And maybe it's not even related to the legs. Maybe it's not related to the injuries. But tell us about a challenge from the farm, how you overcame it, and maybe a lesson or two that you learned through it.
It's a pretty good question. I think that the biggest challenge that I had initially was with my equipment and borrowing equipment and so on, getting the soil tuned to the way I wanted it. Those were probably, because I have the same kind of soil you have. It's pretty nasty clay, and once you get down about a foot, it's that nasty blue, sulfury, stinky stuff. The actual farming aspect of it was probably the most difficult in that learning curve, because I had never farmed any kind of crop before, and so I had a lot to learn, and it took me quite a while to get it dialed down. And of course, labor is the defining factor there for us. Is what we're going to do, because it's the most expensive part of the operation. And that's probably the research and learning aspect of it was the most difficult part for me.
Okay, all right. What if you had to go through and do it all over again? What would you do differently?
I would probably choose my plants, my breed of plants better. I had Providence and Grosso, which have not done very well. I had to replace quite a few of them. And the Southern Ohio winters, as you know, a couple years ago, we had that ice storm come through, which tore them up. And then we had, it was pretty cold last year for just a brief stretch that tore them up. And so I would have definitely done more research to better fit plants to my growing area.
Okay.
That would be the number one thing that I would.
Are you glad you guys did not stick with hemp?
We are big time happy that we didn't spend with hemp. Because I would have had to buy some hemp equipment, and I would just be stuck here with it. And yeah, that would have been a nightmare. I've heard terrible nightmare stories about the hemp growers in the area.
Yeah, we had heard about a hemp grower up in the Sandusky, Ohio, so up north in that area. And yeah, I can't imagine all the legalities, all the challenges. Like, no way. It's not worth it. It's not worth the extra headache and hassle.
And we went to this meeting, and they're like, well, we have to have GPS coordinates of your field that you're planting and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And if you plant it in the wrong place, they can arrest you because you're outside your permit, and it's hemp, man. It's not,
It's nothing more.
You would have to smoke a pickup truck full of it to get a buzz off of it. Another thing, yeah, it's just dumb. Another thing that people don't realize about hemp and CBD and THC extraction on these plants is that it's done with chemicals. You cannot steam, vapor, still CBD oil or THC oil out of these plants. It has to be done through a chemical process. And so the people that grow hemp around here have to send it somewhere to be processed, whereas the lavender I just process myself and distill it and get the oil off of it, and everybody's happy, and it's a nice natural process.
Exactly, yeah. That's the beautiful thing with it is you're not doing... It's still labor intensive, but yeah, you're not having to go through chemical processes or, anything more intense like that. So more unhealthy.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could see into the future, John, what legacy would you like your farm, business, or even just you as a husband and father? What legacy would you like to leave?
Well, as far as the farm is going to start to wind down. We're not giving up or anything, but as we move more into this importing business, we started a new business called Ohio Valley Imports, and I'm in the process of getting my own customs and brokerage license so I can bring in my own equipment and not have to go through a third party. And I think that that's where our future is going to be. We did make some money off of the lavender, but it's nothing you could live off of. It was a lot of fun, and we actually have 2 commercial dog products that we still want to get on the market that are just fantastic. But getting into retail stores is virtually impossible unless you know somebody or you're a big company. It's very difficult. Got a lot of rejection there. It's been frustrating. And we even have co-packers lined up and so on. But
wow,
you just can't get into the retail stores to place orders. And so I think that the lavender is going to be a hobby, not a profession at this point, and the machinery is going to suppress that significantly, and that's where the biggest part of my labor is going to be going. As far as being a dad is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I just can't get enough of my kids, and they're a senior in high school and a junior in college, and I just can't stand to be apart from them. It drives me absolutely insane, and we're looking at being empty nesters next year, and it really causes me some panic. And when I look at my little girls, even though they're 21 years old, I see them as 3 or 4-year-old little girls running around my house, and it's heartbreaking. It's much more difficult than I ever expected it was going to be to watch my children grow up and leave my house and move out on their own. And dealing with that has been, and I think will continue to be, my largest challenge over the next couple of years.
Well, it's definitely a food for thought for the future as our kids grow as well.
Yeah, it's tough.
So if you had to give one piece of advice to somebody who was interested in doing what you have done, what piece of advice would that be?
The piece of advice I would give is very carefully look at the numbers, the money aspect of it. When it comes to the lavender, it's very expensive to put in the ground, and I don't know what your cost was, but I had to lay some water line throughout my farm, and it cost me about $8,000 an acre to get this lavender in the ground. And so I think that people, if they're looking at doing lavender farming, they need to not only estimate the plants and so on, they really need to estimate the labor aspect of it, because eventually you're not going to be able to keep up with it on your own.
Yeah, I think that's great advice to give, because the cost.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that we kind of ran into, was the cost just kept piling up, and we're like, oh, we didn't think about that. Another piece of advice I would give people is to use the free resources in your state. And so if you are in Ohio, every state has this, but every state has agricultural extension offices. Use those people. They want to come out for free, give you advice, and tell you what to do. And so definitely use they saved me a ton of money, because I had not planned on putting in weed fabric. And the guy came down, the horticulturalist, and he's like, are you going to put this in weed fabric? And I said, well, no, why? And he's like, well, you're wasting your time and your money. He's like, it's got to go in weed fabric. Guy saved me a ton. And so those people will have soil reports. They'll have soil conditioning requirements. They'll have all of that stuff that you can use, and it's 100% free. Use your ag extension people to the fullest extent.
Valuable advice, and that's something that most people starting out just don't even have any idea about. So yeah, that's huge. All right, so if people want to learn more about you or your company, where can they learn more about that?
Oh, so you can go to my website. It's OhioValleyLavender.com, and it's got some of the machinery that we're importing. We're updating that website right now, and it does have some of the machinery on it, and kind of tells our story. And of course, social media. We're on all the social medias. That's Facebook at Ohio Valley Lavender, Instagram. Post stuff on there periodically. As soon as we get this funding through and start placing orders for demo equipment, we're really going to ramp up our social media advertising for these machines.
John, thank you very much for sharing your story today. John, thank you very much for sharing your story today. Your words remind us that farming is more than just food. It's about family, values, and the lessons that carry on for generations. For our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and visit our website at abundantlyblessedfarm.com/podcast, where you can connect with John, learn about some of the awesome things that he's doing, and also check out some of our other episodes. Until next time, remember, every farm has a story. Thanks for listening.